What's up guys, John from Beyond ARTV. I'm here for a very special episode of 17 on Sunday. That's right, 17 on Sunday is normally just 7 on Sunday, but as you see by the title of this video, I couldn't possibly define the 90s in just 7 songs. Not that I can do it in 17, but hey, it's a little bit better of a start. If you'd like to follow along, check out the playlist in the description down below. I threw in a few bonus tracks for you guys as well. I love the 90s, I love the aesthetic of the 90s, and sometimes I get really nostalgic for it. I was born in that time period, and a lot of these songs were just, not just childhood anthems and memories, but memories that kind of carried over into the 2000s as I really started to develop and get into music. I hope you guys enjoy this countdown, and yeah, I'm gonna get back to my game for now.
Some of those that work forces draw the same that burn crosses.
My first exposure to Rage Against the Machine was on Guitar Hero actually, and that was a game that I loved playing, and I loved this song, and I had to end up getting my hands on the album Evil Empire. Killing in the Name was just an anthem. They've always been a political band, and this was just them going at it, attacking the man, bringing the man down, and it was just so aggressive with those furious bass lines that came through the song, and then obviously the thrashing guitars, just the rap rock style that really just started to cross over to mainstream success. Zach De La Rocha, just an incredible vocalist, unlike anyone that you've ever seen.
Life is so love the one you got, 'cause you might get run over or you might get shot. Never start no static, I just get it off my chest. Never had to battle with no bulletproof vest.
Light me up that cigarette and I strap shoes on my feet. Oh, come on! Unfortunately, the lead singer Bradley Nowell of this band passed away far too young, and we see that far too often in the world of rock and roll music. But Sublime really broke onto the scene with this debut album, and of course with this smash hit, What I Got. You cannot listen to an alternative music station without hearing this song to this day, and that's not a bad thing by any means. I love the lyrics that are just so perfectly describing of this portrait of the 90s, kind of boredom, the ins and out of falling out with like a mom, relationship struggles there. I think it was kind of an anthem in a way for a lot of teenagers that were struggling, maybe feeling like they were the only ones that felt that way and wanted to rebel. And it was just at a time period in the mid-90s where I feel like that mindset and that kind of style was really starting to gain traction, and Sublime pushed that into the limelight, and obviously we did not get enough material from them. They've got a lot of hits that a lot of people know, Santeria, another big one, but Sublime really just helped paint a portrait of the 90s in a way because it's still something that's stuck in everyone's mind. I'll never forget Andy from The Office, who actually did the best impersonation of this song. It's just absolutely hysterical. I'm going to show you guys right now because I have to.
In your head, zombie, 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 hey, hey.
That never gets old to me, and of course him singing Closing Time, another staple of the 90s that you will not find on this list. Sorry to everyone who was probably expecting or hoping for it. I've heard that song far too many times to care. Zombie is a really important song from the 90s because it was kind of a war song, a cry for help. Stop, put down the guns, you're ruining these children's lives, you're ruining these families, things are being torn apart. And this song is huge to this day. I mean, there's over 360 million views on this video on YouTube. I had no idea that this song was this big whenever I would be listening to it from time to time. I eventually went and watched the music video one day, saw that it was at like 200 million, and whenever I came back preparing for this video, I was like over 300 million people. And it just shows you how powerful this song is. At this point, you've heard the whole and how everyone makes fun of like the beats that go like that, but Eiffel 65 were kind of at the beginning of that. They kind of started a trend that definitely did get old, but Blue was a song that was just unmistakable. It had hit written all over it, and the charts started going in that direction in the late 90s. We saw more pop and electronic music ready for clubs and dancing. Somebody hand me my fucking Rock Band guitar because I need to rock out. The guitar solo on Alive is just incredible. I remember this came on the other week whenever I was hanging out with my friends, and everybody just kind of stared at me as I sit there and just like air guitar along with it. Alive was the lead single off of their smash hit album 10 in 1991. Major staples of Pearl Jam's career are found on this record. 10, if you've never heard the record, definitely recommend checking it out. That album in and of itself is 90s defining. But Alive is just one of those moments whenever the chorus hits, even though you might not be familiar with Pearl Jam, you've probably heard this used or else played somewhere because it had that big of an impact. And I think rock, pop, electronic metal fans, I think everybody seemed to be on Pearl Jam's side in the 90s and just kind of their career as they went with like Vitology, Versus, and obviously 10. They just kept putting out great albums, and while they did stray off after a while, Pearl Jam were one of those bands that just really stayed on track and have to this day honestly putting out quality music as recently as 2013 with Lightning Bolt.
I walk through the hills 'cause she knows who I am. She sees my good deeds and she kisses the windy. And I never worry, now that is a lie.
It made me really sad whenever somebody told me recently that they only knew the cover version of this song. I think a popular girl group from the late 90s did their own take on it. And not that that's bad, and I definitely think they put an interesting spin on it, but it's just a shame that people don't go back and look up the original. Under the Bridge is just a classic, and I think as soon as it came out, a lot of critics noted that almost instantly. Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic. Just a majestic record from the 1990s. Not my favorite Red Hot Chili Peppers release, but this track in particular really strikes a chord with me, and I think an entire generation, just because of how almost relatable it is. Sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner, sometimes I feel like I'm my only friend, and it just kind of dives into this kind of victim and his story and how he's putting himself out there. Also saw an incorporation of some new things into their sound. I really thought that they started expanding on it whenever they did that Stevie Wonder cover, Higher Ground. I believe that was 1989, sometime around there. And obviously they were trying new things all the time, and here I kind of like the incorporation of the gospel choir, and it just made for a massive hit. I believe it almost topped the Billboard Hot 100 here in the United States. So Under the Bridge, just one of those, another one of those moments that's unmistakable. If you haven't heard the track, then you've been sleeping under a bridge somewhere. I was never a huge Counting Crows fan, but this is one of those tracks that you just have to include because of how big this song was. In fact, you had in store. I was never a huge Counting Crows fan, but this is one of those songs that you just have to include on a list like this because of how important it was to the decade. In fact, everybody was singing along. My parents know this song, and they don't even keep up with music past the 70s. The charm never really wore thin with that one, and I think that's why I'm still here talking about it 23 years after its initial release.
It's a bittersweet symphony that's life. Trying to make ends meet, you're a slave to money, then you die.
I'm sorry this one isn't available in the Spotify playlist. The Verve, I don't think, have their music on Spotify, and that's totally fine. I respect their decision there. Bittersweet Symphony, one of my favorite songs of all time. I genuinely feel so much passion and connection to the lyrical content here, and I think that that really helped a lot of people who were very depressed at the time in the late 90s whenever that came out, and it's carried over and become a staple for people over the years. It's a bittersweet symphony, this life. Try to make ends meet, you're a slave to money, and then you die. It's depressing as hell, but it's so true, and that makes you want to go out and live your life even more, I feel like. I've considered a lot of tattoos over the years, but I have considered lyrics from this song as well. Who knows? Maybe it'll actually end up happening someday soon.
So
ultimate break stuff song. I just want to lose my mind and throw my controller through my laptop and then throw my TV out the window whenever I listen to this. The Beastie Boys, huge success, rap, rock, alternative sampling, all kinds of stuff going on. They were just something new and refreshing in the early 90s. There was a lot of music in that time that we were seeing, like in the hip hop community, that was really starting to bleed through. Obviously, we were getting people like NWA. The album Straight Outta Compton was huge in the late 80s, and the follow-up that came out a few years later. Ice Cube started with his solo career, and I think even the rock world was ready for some more of that rap, as we saw with the first song on this list, Rage Against the Machine. Now, with this band, I think that we really got something that you could connect with, I guess more on a lyrical level, because it seemed like they were having fun. They were teenagers who were stuck being teenagers even though they were into their 20s and I guess eventually like 30s and 40s when they were still making Beastie Boys music. And Sabotage just lives off of these heavy riffs. They weren't always about that with the Beastie Boys, but this track is just very, very powerful, and I've seen so many different covers of it. I think Switchfoot actually performed for a while a cover of it. I saw it live one time and John Foreman was killing it. So it's inspired a lot of people. The Beastie Boys have, and I think it inspired so many bands. That's why the Beastie Boys were so important to the 90s, this track in particular. If you've never gotten down at a party to this track, then you've probably never been to a party. And if you haven't, that's okay. Definitely go look up this track though. You want to hear the full thing to really experience what 1995 was all about.
And all that I can do is just blossom tea for two and maybe even speak my point of view. But it's not sane. It's not sane.
No Rain is on this list because I feel like it inspired a lot of other bands. I debated on putting a couple other tracks that were really kind of like inspiring new alternative styles in the mid to late 90s and even some of the early 90s as we see here with Blind Melon, and No Rain made my list just because of how epic the guitar is on this track that matches the lyrical content that's really pushing something new. I think it connected with a lot of people, and we just see in the 90s a lot of songs that actually have depth and passion to them. You take something as simple as A Rainy Day, which is happening right outside my window right now. You look at the depression and just the loneliness and emptiness that you feel within and express that into a song and then put these mesmerizing guitar parts over it. It's just fascinating to listen to that solo over and over again. That's something that I would do. I would record songs off of the radio as a child and play them back over and over and over again, the solo on the track, just because of how phenomenal it was. It's one of those songs, if you're really looking to get into new styles of music or you're really wanting to appreciate the guitar a little bit more, I think that it's nice to study tracks like this.
That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight, losing my religion, trying to keep up.
I really tried to stay away from this song for a while. I was raised as a very religious person in a very religious household, I would say, and not that I've lost my religion or anything, but this is one of those tracks I like seeing different points of view at this point. I wasn't always like that, and I think it's songs like this that are so important to see what people are feeling and thinking. And at that time, whenever this came out in the early 90s, I don't think that things were as accepted as they are now, and having that kind of point of view where you're just not wondering, you know, what exactly is going on, losing faith in whether it be humanity or gods above or Satan below, whatever it is you believe in, the afterlife, and just the struggle within. REM were doing great things and putting out tracks like this that were just so vital to the life of 90s music and something that was hitting on an emotional plane as well.
Consequence at hand, but I keep living this day like the next will never come. Oh, help me, but don't tell me to deny it. I gotta cleanse myself of all these lies till I'm good enough for him.
I've really started to reconnect with Fiona Apple a lot lately, and that is not disappointing me in the slightest. Digging through her discography, just a simple pleasure in life. Throw it on a rainy day, drive around, listen to it at work, or at home, in bed, whatever you want to do. Trust me, it will suit the mood just right. Criminal, I think, is her biggest hit, peaking at number 21 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1997, or maybe it was early 98. And I remember hearing this song in like the food court in the mall whenever I was a kid, and various places. I believe it was used in a couple of like movies or commercials or a trailer or something. And I went almost another decade without hearing it. In fact, I didn't hear it again until I checked out Fiona's 2012 record, which is an album title that is once again way too long for me to say or remember. Criminal has such a smooth vibe to it, and obviously a lot of Fiona Apple's music kind of has this jazzy appeal, and I like that. It's like a singer-songwriter approach with a unique twist, and I think that this song is so important to the 90s because it did blow up into the mainstream, and we weren't seeing a ton of women singer-songwriters. We needed more of that, and I was loving seeing that breaking through whenever I was studying up on the charts. You can see kind of a turning point, and you inspire people like Anna Malik and other people that really made it through, KT's Tunstall, and obviously there were a ton of others that weren't quite as great, but you did see a lot of quality that came as a result of this. Do any of them top Fiona Apple? No, I don't think so, because she's just so great, and I think that so many people respect her just because of the quality music that she did turn out. And even with tracks like this right here on Criminal, you could see that even though it was a more common theme, I guess, and a little bit easier to understand, I really liked it because it blew up into the mainstream, and it's a song where she openly admits that she's using her sexuality just to get with this guy that she wants to get with. I can respect that. Sixpence None the Richer. That's probably a name that you haven't heard in a long time. I believe it's actually something from the Bible. This is like a Christian rock pop band that also were just kind of like a pop rock band, and they blew up kind of in 1998 very briefly with this track. And I believe I remember hearing it on Sabrina the Teenage Witch whenever I was a kid. The band actually were on the show, and I was like, oh, I like this. Yeah, Sixpence None the Richer, cool. And this track right here just kind of showcased once again what was going on in the pop market and how things were softening up a bit, if you will. I think they were almost dominated a little bit by more aggressive stuff, and I liked seeing kind of the turn to more lighthearted stuff, and we're not really getting that much this day and age. I mean, definitely some stuff crossing over, but whenever things get simplified down to just a guitar and a simple story, I'll take it any day.
I smell sex and candy here. Who's that lounging in my chair? Who's that casting devious stares in my direction?
We never really heard much else from Marcy Playground, did we? Unfortunate maybe, but it's one of those bands, you know, kind of like a one-hit wonder in the world of rock, alternative music. They did kind of have crossover success with this track, and it saw the darker side of things. It's one of those songs that I feel like a lot of people oddly know, and they're like, oh yeah, Sex and Candy, I've definitely heard that. Ace of Base didn't really have any other songs that people attach their name to. I mean, like, yeah, they had some other hits, and they're actually still kind of active, not really, semi-inactive. They've lost all but like 2 of their members, so many lineup changes. But whenever people say 90s, I think in the back of most people's minds, they're thinking, you know what? It's The Sign, Ace of Base. That's the song that people seem to go to so often. So obviously it was one of those songs that defined the decade. It was huge, it was inescapable. And you started seeing programmed drums popping up. And I think that was something that was relatively, not unheard of, but it was still kind of fresh and new at the time. And Ace of Base were just doing things that I think a lot of people who listened to the pop charts didn't understand. And for that, I salute them. I really need to join like an air band or something. Here we are now, Entertain Us. The reason this is like the last song that I'm talking about, I didn't really have these in any specific order, but this is number 1. I have to say, out of everything else, that was all unranked, but this would be number 1 on my list. Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. Here we are now, Entertain Us is a line that defines still our current generation. We're here, we're bored, give us something, we need more, give us something to just basically consume our time. It's one of those tracks that was very sarcastic, dry, and witty in a lot of ways. I love the way this song was built. It was built off of kind of an atypical 4-riff chord, and it just kind of moved forward and propelled the song in a different dynamic. It's something that was like quiet and loud, and obviously that guitar is unmistakable as soon as you hear the first lines every time, you know. And it was written by the band members at the time, which were obviously Kurt Cobain, no longer with us, Chris Novoselic, who is still occasionally playing, and obviously Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters. The fucking Foo Fighters is what he went on to, and he's still not even 50. What would the world be like if we still had Kurt Cobain? I hear that question asked all the time. I've seen numerous videos on it. I've watched a lot of documentaries on Kurt and his life. And it's just really sad and depressing because I do think about that sometimes, because Nirvana are one of those iconic bands that people still cannot seem to get enough of. And pause. I hope you guys enjoyed this very special episode of 17 on Sunday. Stick around because there's gonna be more, probably a part 2 before the end of the year. Obviously you can't define the 90s in just 17 songs, so there will be more. Spotify playlist, like I said, linked in the description down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. I know it was a little bit longer than normal, but hopefully you liked it. And I liked kind of just this chill environment. I didn't feel as much pressure on camera, and I knew it was gonna be a longer video. So I just kind of wanted to chill out and talk to you guys one-on-one. Like I said, hope you enjoyed the countdown. If you want to see more stuff like this, let me know in the comment section down below. I'll be back next week for another episode of 7 on Sunday as per usual. If you want to see last week's episode or any of the episodes, link in the description down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys very, very soon right here on Beyond ARTV.